Good afternoon, Facebook Live. This is Robin Kirby Gatto. Welcome to today. It is a special workshop for new authors. So if you are a new author, today is your day. Get on Facebook and let us get started as you get awesome information. I am just hoping that this is going to be an awesome workshop for you. Hey, Jenny Gailey, good to see you. Thank you for joining in. And today, as you join in, if you have questions today, please feel free to ask them. Hey, Angie Merchant, I see you as well. I see a few people coming on, and I just hope that today is going to be a phenomenal workshop for you new authors out there as you get some information that is going to be able to not only give you tools, but also encourage you to write books. Hey, Eva, so good to see you. I see a few of you coming on, and I'm going to wait. And also remember that I do Monday, Wednesday, Friday teachings. What's teachings? It's teaching and preaching. And then on Thursday this week, I will actually be doing a ketogenic recipe. And the time is to be announced. It will probably be close to about 2 p.m. or 2:30, and I'll let you know. Thank you for joining in. I see Kim. I see Melissa. God bless you. Thank you for joining in. I see Crystal. Thank you for joining in. Hey, Michael. Thank you for joining on today. And Melinda. Oh, good. I'm so glad you needed today. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do what is called a workshop. What is a workshop? It is an informational session of education, giving you tools on what you can use in order to equip you, to help you, to give you understanding, to give you knowledge, so that you can move forward and write your book and get it published. Are you super excited? So good to see you, Renee. God bless you. Thank you for joining in. So good to see. I see a few people joining on here. I see another Melissa, and I see Debbie Edmonds. Thank you for being on here. And when you get on here, just know that I'm going to give you some information, and then later on I'm going to take questions. So those of you who have questions, know that we will have a Q&A session after the end of this workshop. Let me first get started by giving you kind of my backstory on how I got into being an author. I never expected to be an author. I did not like English. English was my absolute worst subject in school. I could not understand it, and I never saw myself writing. However, in 2004, God actually told me to write a book, and I wrote what I thought would be one book, and after I wrote it and sent it to a publisher, they said, Robin, this is more than one book. You've actually got 4 books here. And so they told me to take that first writing that I wrote in 6 months and to break it into 4 books. And so I broke it into what I thought 4 books would be out of that one manuscript. And then I submitted the first one to this self-publishing agency. And later it got picked up by a bigger publisher, which I'll get into in a minute. And then I ended up with a 3rd and 4th book that I actually submitted. I did not even use those books at all. I wrote entirely new books after many years of writing in 2004. And many years later, 13 and 14 years later, I actually just put those books aside and scratched them, and I wrote the last 2 books of the Glory to Glory Sisterhood series. Yes, Jenny, it is multiplication. And one of the things I would love to encourage you is to be obedient. When God tells you to write a book, be obedient and just write it. Just write it. And we'll get into that right now, and I'll give you a little details, and then we'll get into the area of publication. So let's first of all talk about writing a book. A lot of people ask me, Robin, how do I start in writing a book? Well, I will give you my particular area and the way in which I move in writing manuscripts, and hopefully you can either use it, or you can consider it, or you can go an entirely new way, but it will at least give you some tools in order that you can move forward. So usually when I get ready for a book, God already gives me the name of the book. And he'll say, Robin, I want you to write God's Powerwall School of the Prophets. Robin, I want you to write the book Destiny. Robin, I want you to write At His Feet. And so I like to really give this analogy because this is the only way I can give you the analogy. I feel like God's wide receiver. And so when he tells me to write a book, it's as though he is the quarterback and he tells me to go long. And I'm like the quarterback going back there ready to catch the ball. And I'll catch it and he'll say, write Destiny. And I'm like, woo! I get to write Destiny. I have no clue how it's going to look like. And of course, I had already written Destiny, as I mentioned before, an entirely new book many years ago. And when I looked at the book, God told me, he said, Robin, I don't want any material that you wrote then. I don't want any material in this new book because I have a revelation that you have to share. Now, is that other book that is still sitting on the shelf, is that just in the trash can? No. First of all, it was good practice. Let me tell you, as a writer, and by the way, just to give you some background, I have written over 76 different workbooks, and all of those workbooks have been slowly going onto Amazon. Right now, I have 11 books on Amazon. 2 of them were actually published with Destiny Image, and all the others I actually published myself on Amazon, and I'm going to get into that in just a minute. But when I look at writing a book, I always get a title and I always get a theme. And a great way to compare it is when you're hosting a kid's birthday party. Think about it. Your kid's birthday party every year has what? A theme. And that theme is like the large theme of the entire birthday party. But underneath the birthday party theme, what happens? You have to get cups, you have to get a cake, you have to get snacks, you have to choose the location. And so that theme is good as it relates to getting a title, getting the title of the book. So the first thing that I would really encourage you to do is, first of all, the Word of God says, write the vision and make it plain. So when you're talking about the theme, it's the theme of the vision of the book. And so every time I have written a book in the past, God has given me a theme, and he will say, Robin, Glory to Glory Sisterhood. Okay, God, I'm your wide receiver. How does it look like? Throw me the ball. And the best depiction I can tell you is it is stepping out on faith. It is taking a leap of faith. And I just go forward in blind faith. I don't lean on my own understanding, but I acknowledge God. I acknowledge that this is his work. And it's so funny because every time I see a book and I see my name on it, I look at that book and I'm thinking, that's my name and that's the book I wrote, but I don't feel like it's my book. I cannot comprehend it. I cannot explain it to you. And I think the reason that I am that way is because I write a book and I'm moving on to the next book because I am in the season of writer. Last year when we moved back to Birmingham, right before we moved back, I took Rich to work, and on my way through the city, I saw a license plate that said writer at the very beginning of last year, and God told me then that my season was writer. I had been a minister for many, many years, had been in full-time ministry, had written many workbooks, but guess what? Those workbooks were practice. You're going to find out as a writer, especially an excellent writer, because we're not just talking about being a writer just to write. We're talking about writing excellent work, right? We should write excellent work. One of the things that actually pain me is to watch these videos in the arena of just general books, and people are on there coaching you to write a book in a week. And I think that that is absolutely reckless. recklessness. It is recklessness. It takes nothing to write a book in 1 week. It takes a lot in order for you to press in, to give much consideration and time when you write a book, and to not just look at it as the next thing that comes and just goes like a potato chip, but to look at it as excellence, because whatever you put out is going to represent you. And so when you put a work out, you don't want to just write it and send it off. You want to give it some work, and you want to practice, practice, practice. It is amazing how both my son and my husband are excellent writers, and I was not the excellent writer. However, after writing since 2004, and especially multiple times, 76 times, since 2011, when I started God's Firewall School of the Prophets, that has 36 workbooks, and God's Firewall Healing of the Soul, which has 23 workbooks already written, but has 27 workbooks in all. And then I wrote the Watchmen series, and that has several books. Ever since I have done that, I have had opportunity to practice, practice, practice. And so when you write a book, don't just think that you're quickly going to get through something and you're quickly going to put it out, because this is something that should be considered excellent, to give much time and to give much effort to. When I wrote the last book, Destiny, which is on Amazon today, when I wrote the last book, Destiny, I can tell you that I felt like a pregnant woman. I thought that this book would not end. And I am actually a writer that puts a work out as fast as I can get it out. I spend all my time when I am not ministering. I spend all my time writing and focusing on a book. So my schedule is ministry, writing, ministry, writing, ministry, writing. And I write a considerable amount of time. This last book was actually 430 pages, but I went on to Amazon and made the font a little smaller in order to make it 387 pages to get that full effect for that particular book and to offer an excellent product. But this is the thing. That book took me 4 months. And me being a full-time writer, I now see that I write 100 pages a month. And that means that it's first of all written, and then I edit it, and then Rich and I edit it, and I edit it again, and then I edit it again. And so usually before a book gets out to you all, it's been edited at least 4 times, if not 5 times. And I would tell you and encourage you and just tell you to buckle in, because as much time as you spend writing, you can double that amount, and you're going to spend twice the amount of time that you did writing the book. You're going to at least spend twice the amount of time editing the book. It is not something, even though you're excited and you want to get it out there, I know from experience. Listen, I have put books on pre-order for Kindle, and that was a huge mistake, because I'm used to, over the years where I wrote workbooks for several years, I was used to having a conference and I would write the workbook that last 2 weeks leading up to the conference. So I was used to producing a book and getting it out there. But when I switched over with the schools and with the conferences to put them on Amazon, my writing went to an entirely different level. And that's one of the things you're going to discover as a writer, is you're going to write, 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 and keep on writing. And that writing is your practice in order that you can become a better writer. My writing today is light years from even 7 years ago when I first started God's Firewall School of the Prophets. But my writing today, from the 2004 writing of Glory to Glory Sisterhood is a whole nother light year away from that writing. Why? Because I have been practicing and writing all these years, and it's helped me become a better author. So first and foremost, when you get the title, that's your theme. And then secondly, understand that you're going to be committed to this book, and it's a long haul. It's like having a baby. Think about it. When you have a baby, it is 9 months. It takes 9 months for a baby to be in the womb. And I really feel like it's actually 10 months, but doctors say it's 9 months. But having been pregnant, I feel like it's 10 months. But it takes time writing, and it's practice. Yes, it is faithfulness, Jenny, and I'm glad you brought that up. Now remember the word faithfulness. Be it unto you according to your faith. That word faithfulness, as I do God's Firewall School, the healing of the soul, that word faithfulness is actually equal and likened to commitment. Commitment. And that is why it was so amazing that Jesus marveled at the leader in the military that wanted his servant healed. And he said, surely I have not seen this much faith in all of Israel. And that is a good demonstration of faithfulness, because the military is what? Committed. They're disciplined. They have commitment. And so when you are writing a book, you have to be committed. I have specialized times where I go, okay, I'm going to write from this time to this time, and I'm going to write every day. And just FYI, not that this is for you, but for me, I am a morning writer. My best time to write is before I get on Facebook, and generally after Facebook, I come back and I'm writing again. So when you get the theme, then you're going to have chapters. For me personally, this is what works for me. This is the way I've always done it. Ever since I've been writing in 2004, when God gave me the Glory to Glory Sisterhood series, God would have chapters, and He would tell me each chapter, and I would find myself deciding, okay, I'm going to write on this chapter, I'm going to write on this chapter, then I'm going to write on this chapter. And then I looked back at the table of contents and realized that I was writing in chronological order of what was on the table of contents. So I would tell you the second thing to do is to write a table of contents. And once you write a table of contents, you have chapters. And it's the best depiction of an outline. When you do study habits, if you remember in school and you studied, for each different subject you had what? An outline. And so your table of contents is a great demonstration of an outline. And so you already have those chapters for your book. So when I do a book, I immediately do my intro, and I will try to get some links for you so that you can see different things, and we'll get into that more in a minute. But I have my intro that has the copyright page, I have my title page, and then I have my table of contents, then I have my preface, then I have my foreword, and then I have chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, chapter 4, chapter 5. And I write the titles of each and every chapter. So when I start a book, everything's blank. Title, subtitle, table of contents, and then I just write each particular thing that would be on the table of contents. Preface, foreword, chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, chapter 4, chapter 5. And within those chapters, I actually have further breakdown with title headings in between that chapter. For me, I discovered when I first initially started writing, my chapter pages would only be like 5 to 7 pages long. There is nothing wrong with that. Actually, Rich is writing a book, and his chapters are about 5 to 7 pages long. There's nothing wrong with that. But as your writing develops, and as your mindset is clear about what is supposed to be in the book, you're probably going to find out that your chapters might be a little longer, and within your chapters are subtitles. So it's almost like you have chapters and mini chapters within a chapter. Some people like sections in the book. And in section 1, they might have chapters 1 and 3. I did this in Princess Warriors because I distinctly wanted to separate a particular subject matter of the fear of the Lord from the rest of the book. And so I have actually sections in Princess Warrior, and within those sections are chapters, and of course within the chapters are title headings, but I would call those mini chapters. And one of the things that really has to be developed as an author is that when you start writing chapters and you see a good breaking point, that's when you're going to put in that title heading, which is going to be like your mini chapter. When you're starting a whole new thought, when you're going down a whole different avenue, that's where you're going to put in your that title heading, and you're going to say, okay, this is going to be, for example, when I did Esther and the book Destiny, oh my goodness, it is so multi-layered, and all of my books are very multi-layered, and so it brings more complexity as an author in writing a book. And so I'll lay out particular flow of each chapter, and I consider it like plaiting hair, and it's like getting 3 cords or 3 strands, and you're plaiting it and you're overlaying that chapter with those 3 plaits. You find out what works for you, and you find out, first of all, are you writing a nonfiction or are you writing a fiction? And when you look at writing a fiction, you're really going to get into more character development. It's a whole different writing element. And having written both nonfiction and fiction, I can tell you it has stretched me more because it's an entirely different avenue in writing fiction than it is writing teaching. My comfort level has been for many years because I've been writing since 2004. I've been writing teaching in the Word of God. And so my comfort level was absolutely perfect as I finally hit my stride and brought in complexities in my teaching with physics, mathematics, biology, social work. I bring in anatomy, astronomy, high-level mathematics. So I bring in all of those complex elements into a chapter. And so when I'm looking at a chapter, I want a particular structure. So when you're looking at writing a chapter, you want a structure to flow with each chapter, and it's going to be continually the same. The structure that you have for this chapter is going to mirror the structure that you have for the next chapter, because that gets the reader a pace. It's almost like running a marathon. When you run a marathon and you're running with other runners, you want to set your own pace. You don't want to run you don't want to run at the pace of somebody that's trying to run really fast. You want to run at a pace that works for you. And so when you're looking at each individual chapter, as I mentioned, that you're going to have title headings in that chapter, which are like mini chapters, you're going to want to create a structure. So for example, in my last book, Destiny, I had a structure. The first chapter is all fiction, but every chapter thereafter, and that fiction chapter sets the pace for the reader that comes into my book that's used to teaching, that they know that they're going to get teaching, but there's going to be fiction that's going to set a whole different pace that actually causes the reader to relax while they're reading the book. The books that I write are so intense. There's a lot of education. There's a lot of scripture. There's a lot of information. So I have to bring my readers a pause. I have to let their brains rest. And so when I'm writing Destiny, I set the pace by, first of all, starting the first chapter completely fiction, but every chapter thereafter has a structure. And so the structure from chapter 2 to chapter 5 is, first of all, teaching. It's teaching in general about one thing. When you look at a chapter, you don't want to be tangential. I remember when I was an outpatient psych therapist, one of the things we looked at when we were monitoring different people with seriously mental illness, we were monitoring them. One of the things we looked at is their conversation with us. And one of the things that we had to identify was, are they tangential? What does that mean? You're going on this rabbit trail, and then you start going on this rabbit trail, and then you go on this rabbit trail. I have so much complexity with bringing sciences, bringing teaching, bringing an entire book in, that I have to set a pace. I have to set a structure for the reader so they don't feel that I'm going off all these tangents. Now, this applies as well to nonfiction as well as fiction. So when you're writing a fiction, it is no different. You want to have under the title, and you have your chapters, you want to focus on one particular thing. So for example, in chapter 1, in my fiction chapter of Destiny, I have Hadassah at 9 years old. I have her interacting with the garden. I have her interacting at home. And this is a pattern that I developed, that God developed in the first chapter. So then you turn and you see Hadassah has gotten older, and it's several years later, and I have the same pattern. Her relationship in the garden and her relationship at home. And then at the very end of the chapter, as there is a lot of drama, I have the same structure. I have Hadassah's relationship at home and Hadassah's relationship again at the garden. And so the structure that the reader is looking at is garden, home, garden, home, garden, home. That's a garden home. Isn't that funny? But it makes it easy for the reader. And one of the things that I've learned as a fiction writer is to really develop the scene. Listen, you can have the most boring scene. It can be absolutely, completely boring. But you as a writer can bring the reader the images, the smells, the touches, the taste, the experience of that scene. And as a fiction writer that I have been developing in, that is one of the things I've noticed more, is that I am developing the character so that people can relate and they almost feel like they have a relationship with a character. Now, when you're looking at nonfiction, it is no different because you're talking about a subject and you're wanting people to feel comfortable about the subject. And again, I have so much information. I bring in sciences. I bring in teachings that are absolutely university level that can intimidate the reader. And so I am setting a pace for the reader. First and foremost, there is a structure, and this is what this chapter is about. It's about this. And for example, the second chapter of Destiny is servanthood. And so my focus on that entire chapter is about being a servant. It's about servanthood. So I talk about servanthood for us and the servant, Jesus. I'm always going back to us and Jesus. Us and Jesus. And then I bring in analogies. As a nonfiction writer, one of your best tools is going to bring in analogies. And those analogies are going to come from your own personal experience or ideas that God gives you, revelation that God gives you. And that's what happens to me a lot as a nonfiction writer, that I'll be writing intensely about a subject, and then God will have me bring in an analogy. And that provides your reader a pause. It lets them have a break and almost like, now I can breathe for a minute. Oh my goodness, this is intense. Is class over? It provides a resting point. And their brain doesn't have to think. Their brain can just shut down. They don't have to think about it. And so you're going to want to bring your truth, your structure, whatever that nonfiction point is that you're teaching on. And then you're going to want to bring an analogy. And that analogy brings in a resting point for your reader in order that it can breathe. So for me, for my chapters in Destiny, for example, I mentioned that it was platted like a threefold plat. And generally, all of my books are like that. Generally, all of my books have a structure in every chapter where it's truth, the focus of the book that we're looking at in the Bible. And then right now, in this particular book, Destiny, it is fiction. And so each and every chapter thereafter is structure of truth. That structure now brought into the book of Esther, because Esther is our focus, the book of Esther, and then right after the teaching on the book of Esther, fiction. So one chapter, as it looks like, beginning in chapter 2 through chapter 5. Again, my chapters are very few, but they are very long. For example, before I change the font, and it's the same font of all of my other books, this font for Destiny is now smaller because it is so many pages. Without the change in the font, it is 430 pages. That is a lot of information. It is a big book. And so when you look at such a big book, and there's only 5 chapters, and the first chapter is probably about 30 pages, and this is with the regular font. Now that I have shortened the font, the chapters look much smaller, but in the regular font, chapter 5 is about 100 pages. And so I have to have many chapters, which are title headings, in that chapter, but I'm still going after the same structure. Teaching of the structure, Esther in the Bible, and fiction. It is the same thing going over and over and over. Because what you develop for your reader is an internal map. I remember when I went to law school, and I was intimidated because I'd been through social work, masters, and bachelors. I always wanted to be a lawyer, but it was entirely different studying when you're going to law school. And only God got me through law school, and God got me in the top 4 to 5% of those that took the baby bar in California that year. I was absolutely amazed, and God got me finished through law school. But it was absolutely intimidating each semester, getting all these different subjects and taking a subject and going, I have no clue what contracts is. I have no clue what criminal procedure is, what criminal law is, what civil procedure is, what torts is. I have no clue what wills, trusts, and estates is. And so what I would do with every subject is I would take the information. Of course, I would get study materials, and then I would get this internal map. And that is why I did so brilliantly in school, is because I would gather inside of my brain this internal map as I kept studying a subject over and over and over and over. And so as you're writing a nonfiction, you're going to want to make it easy for your reader to build an internal map in their head. And you're going to want other chapters to marry that structure thereafter. And that is what's going to create a successful book. One thing I know for certain, although I have not got a bestseller yet, every single book I have put out is bestseller material. And I will stand behind that 1,000, 1,000,000%. I will stand behind it 1,000,000%. That is how confident and the excellence of each writing that I have done, and having broad, complex subjects brought into different books, such as Destiny. I bring in DNA. I bring in xylem. I bring in plants. I bring in the science of plants, botany. I bring in all this other material with biology. And God just has me do it in a way that the reader just starts hitting a pace, and then has me bring in pauses where I'll bring in wit and bring things that are funny. Those are very successful and very intense nonfiction books. And even in fiction books, that wit is great to just kind of break up the atmosphere and to bring a transition to the reader to where they feel they're resting, and it's not arduous, it's not laborious in reading the book. Now let's get to publication. This is what is necessary to get to, because once you've written a book, then you need to publish it, right? And so for me, I've actually been to a self-publishing company in 2004, and those who ever got my very first Glory to Glory Sisterhood series, it was so thin, It was a pink and white striped book. I took that to a self-publishing company, but later on, I got accepted with Destiny Image, which is a very big publisher, and they put out awesome books. And they put out the first 2 books of Glory to Glory Sisterhood. I am in the midst of revising those books with Destiny in order to get them to the quality now that I'm at now from where I was then. I had written in 2008 and 2011, I had put out Glory to Glory Sisterhood and Princess Warriors. The information that I have now is so much incredible compared to what I had then. And so I'm going back to those books probably next year, and I'm revising and doing another edit, and I'm putting out another edition of those particular books. I have been through self-publishing, I've been through publishers, but I can tell you for me, now, whatever works for you, works for you. I can tell you for self-publication, and even as a new author with a publisher, that most of the time you're going to have to put out money. And it can cost a lot. It can cost a lot. I know for my Glory to Glory Sisterhood book, I had to commit to 3,000 books. 3,000 books. And I have almost paid off that contract. I pay them every month, and they get all my royalties for Glory to Glory Sisterhood and Princess Warriors. And I can tell you, I would never commit to that many books ever again. But I can also tell you what works for me. For me, because I produce so much, and because I want to put a book out when I want to put a book out, because when you go with a publisher, even a self-publishing company, it's probably going to be 7 to 9 months after you've signed the contract with them and they start the process of your book. It's at least going to take, probably with a self-publishing company, 7 months, but with a publisher, it's going to probably take 9 months. For me, that's not fast enough. Why? Because I have 76 books, and I don't want to wait till Jesus Christ returns to get all these books out. So for me, what works for me is actually going on to Amazon, and I am my own publishing company. I have all control, I have all rights, and I am able to get on there immediately, and I'm able to put a book out as soon as I want to put a book out. Now let's look. My focus right now is going to be, if you decide to go on Amazon, oh my goodness, it is the absolute best thing. I absolutely love Amazon. They are so author friendly. If you are looking at publishing your work, I would consider strongly, and I would heavily recommend to every new author to seriously look at putting it on Amazon yourself. Why? Because first and foremost, it is going to take several months to put out your book by an actual publisher. There's also services that a publisher gives you. These same type of services are available to you, and they're available for a fraction of the price. And you editing it, you can edit it every day and upload an edited version like that. It's the easiest thing, and you also get 70% royalties. That was huge for me, because with Destiny, I only got 10% royalties. So I'm going from 10% where I don't own all the rights to my book, where they have control over my covers, and then I have to pay them to revise it and to edit my book and get 10% in royalties. I go from that to having full control, 70% royalties, having absolute control over my covers, over my work, over editing, over revisions. I cannot tell you that this is only the dream life for any new author. And I am fully persuaded, because I have now put out my 9th book. on Amazon in this way, and I feel comfortable, I feel confident, and I absolutely love living as an author, having this accessibility immediately as an author on Amazon. It is absolutely fabulous. Now let's look at some tools, some websites you can go to, because what you're going to have to consider is when you post your book on Kindle, it is an entirely different format, not too much different, I would say. It's a different format than putting a book out on paperback, which through Amazon is going to go on CreateSpace. So your go-to place, if you want to, it is an awesome idea as a new author, you could go to createspace.com and you can sign up to submit a book. And CreateSpace actually has services for very nominal fees. I think even, I can't remember, I would be remiss to say the wrong thing. I don't know if it's like $300 or, it's very nominal. I mean, it is very nominal. It's a very nominal fee. So if you are a new author, you can go to createspace.com. You can sign up to have a book. You can get their team to work with you, and you can have a professional team with Amazon that actually works with you on your book. And so one of the things you're going to be looking at after you've written the book is you've got the book written, so now what? If you're going to put it up and publish it yourself, you're going to have to get it formatted. You're going to have to get a cover. So let's talk about those two things. First of all, one of the best websites as a new author that you're going to want to have in your toolbox is called Fiverr.com. 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 And when you go on Fiverr, you're going to see different services that you're able to get. And those are the same kind of services, professional services, that will be able to put out a successful book. You have the cover service, you have editing services, you have formatting services. So if you need help on formatting a book, I'm going to, in the links below on my YouTube channel, I'm going to put this video on YouTube. You're going to be able to see links if you particularly want to format your own book. I know for us, it was a money issue. I just could not even afford $80. And I think for my books, it was going to be $80 to format a book. And I just could not afford that. And I said, Rich, we are not going to spend this money. I'm going to learn how to format my own book. And so I just watched the videos and saw how they worked with Microsoft Word document. The Word document is what you will use when you start writing a book. And once you learn how to format your Word document, then you can get a routine with each and every chapter. And you'll already have your main font. You'll have your quote font. You'll have your subtitle font. You'll have your chapter font. You'll have your title font. You'll learn how to do a table of contents. And especially with Kindle, you're also going to do a hyperlink, where you have to do a hyperlink and connect each chapter with the table of contents, so that when people go to Kindle, they can click on my chapters on the table of contents, and it will actually take them to that chapter. It sounds like it is a very difficult thing. It is not difficult, but I'm giving you this information. First and foremost, let me put this clarification out there. I will not format anyone else's book. I love you all, but I don't have time. And that is why I'm putting this information out there. Just in case somebody comes to me and says, Robin, how do I format my book? That is a whole nother workshop that I am just not very educated as a techie to give you. But there are videos that I will post below on my YouTube video that you can go to and just spend some time, and it will take you a while. It might take you a few weeks, but that's okay. But once you get it, and you're able to format your book. If you have the money, like $80 or whatever, you're able to go on Fiverr, Fiverr.com, and they have people that format for you, and they have people that give quotes. So you're able to go ahead and give that book and to pay a very nominal fee for them to format it for either Kindle or also paperback. Because again, the paperback format is going to be a little different than the format for Kindle. Generally, what I do is I will put everything as I'm writing it initially as a Kindle format. And when I'm ready to create my CreateSpace document, I get that same document and I save it as a different name. So now I have that document, that exact document 2 times, and then I go into that second document, and then I make my changes to have it formatted to CreateSpace, to paperback. It is very, very easy. And so what you're going to do is you're going to walk through these things, and especially when doing your cover. Oh my goodness, there's so many good cover artists out there. I will tell you, you will see deals that you might want to try out a cover artist. There's a cover artist on Fiverr, Fiverr.com. There are different cover artists. I do not want to give out my cover artist because he does not need as much foot traffic. He is already overwhelmed, and I want to be respectful of his time for me. But I will tell you to go on Fiverr, Fiverr.com. I'll put that in the links below as well. And to look at all the different cover artists, there are so many. You can just do a $5 trial of just how the front cover might look. I would actually suggest that. That is what I did when I first found my cover artist. And I did a $5 trial for a cover. But what you're really going to spend for each and every cover, my experience has been that I want Shutterstock pictures. I want great quality pictures. For every single one of my books, I pick all of the pictures on my book and I get them and I tell my cover artist, I want this here, I want that there, and I want it to be exactly like this. And he produces it each and every time exactly how I want it. I absolutely love it. And so when you get that and you just do a $5 trial and you realize that you like that person and you want to go ahead and get them to do a full cover, you're going to probably spend anywhere from $30 to $65 or $70. If you want that entire source file and you want to have your print ready PDF file, because your cover artist will send you a JPEG file, which is fine to upload for Kindle, but when you send off for your paper book, you have to have the PDF file. And so when you see those $25 deals, those $25 deals don't include the paperback cover. They only include the JPEG files. And so you're going to want to make sure that you get the PDF file, because that is what you're going to submit as your cover actually on CreateSpace for Amazon paperback. So you're going to want to get that. For me, I pay a little extra because, like I said, I pay for my images. And then I am also getting my source file so that if I want to make changes later, let's say I want to republish a book or bring out a second edition a couple of years later, I've got that source file and I'm able to change that cover a little bit. So I hope that's helped you. So let me see who has questions. What are your questions? Let me know. And I hope this has been helpful today. I know for me, I would have loved something like this when I first started doing Amazon. I would have loved to have had this education because it would have been super helpful for me. And I hope that this has been very helpful for you. So is there anyone that has any questions out there? Is there a cost to upload on? No, thank you for bringing it up, Jenny. It is $0. Zero. It is free. It is free to upload on Kindle. It's free to upload on CreateSpace. That is why I am absolutely blown away why there are not a gazillion authors doing this out there. And especially if I was a big name author, I would start going to Amazon. 70% royalties. And then it is free to put your stuff up there. It is absolutely amazing. Yes, it is. Amen, Jenny. It's awesome. Oh, good, Christy. So glad. Are there any other questions out there besides? That was a good question. I'm so glad you asked that because that was a question I had as a new author. I mean, if you're able to survive, formatting it, which takes a little while, but you'll get used to it, and you find your cover artist, I just don't see why someone would not go this route. Oh, good. I am so glad, Jenny. I'm so glad. Are there any other questions out there? If there's not, I'll wait just one more minute. And if there's not, I'll go ahead and end this Facebook Live. And I just hope that this workshop has given you so many tools, has helped you so much as a new author to write as well as to publish. I had so much fun with you all, and I thank you for joining in. So you all have a good day, and I will see you tomorrow. I will do my actual preaching, which is teaching and preaching tomorrow. So I will see you tomorrow. Oh, Helene, your husband has many friends who have told me you have 100 books in you. Good. Helene, you were supposed to watch this. If you got a book in you, I am persuaded. I've been through self-publishing. I've been through a publisher. And I have been through Amazon. And I would recommend that any day over the other. That's what I would recommend. I am so glad. And I will see you tomorrow. Thank you, Crystal. Thank you, Renee. Thank you, Kim. Thank you, Jenny. Thank you, Helene. God bless you all. I'll see you tomorrow. And you write your book and give me the testimonies, right? I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.